let's talk about what happens to your brain when you're stressed out and highlight how it's actually not getting you the results that you need, and it's the actual limiter for the success that you're aiming for. Hi, I'm Alessandra, and I'm a seasoned entrepreneur who co-founded a pioneering climate tech and crypto company that paved the way for a whole new industry. And now I coach entrepreneurs to build businesses without burning out. There's this myth that frustrates me a lot, so I want to talk about it. Is people think that there's an outdated belief that we need to work and hustle super hard all the time, and then that means that we need to be stressed and burnt out. First of all, let's separate the two things. Working a lot of hours, putting a lot of time and intention and investment into a project, a company, does not mean that you have to do it stressed and burnt out. Those are two separate things. Do you think Elon Musk is always stressed and hating what he's doing? He's loving what he's doing. He's spending time doing what he's doing because he wants to build businesses and he's passionate about it, and maybe some other egotistical reasons for it, but he's not walking around stressed and burnt out. So first, you need to dispel yourself of this notion that, oh, you know what, it's part of the game. I just have to be stressed and burnt out and have no work-life balance because then I can invest all this time into my startup and then I'll be successful and then I can chill on the beach with a pina colada. This is not true. It's not true. And why would you want to live your life that way? So let's talk about what happens in your brain when you are stressed and burnt out, and highlight how it's actually not getting you the results that you need, and it's the actual limiter for the success that you're aiming for. One of the motivations for me recording this video was when I recently interacted with a VC at a tech event in Miami. I was just asking him a few questions about what his partners do for their portfolio companies and the founders and how to support them through the stress of innovating something new, of trying to prove a market and a business for new technology in the market. And he was very clearly not interested in engaging with me at all. So after a couple questions, I realized that and was making moves to gracefully allow him to exit the conversation. Just as I'm making those conversational moves to gracefully allow him to exit, he said to me, everybody talks about work-life balance, and, it's just, as Mark Andreessen puts it, I don't know this quote, but this is roughly what he said to me. As Mark Andreessen put it, if you work hard for several years and you just put everything into it, you might never need to work again. That could be true for a very small fraction of you, but for the rest of us, it's not. And the truth is, it's a myth, again, that you need to be overworked and stressed out at the same time, and that will give you success. How can I even claim that? Someone who's not a VC, not as nearly experienced as this person. Well, because one, I think he's operating from an old paradigm and probably not the most conscious understanding of how our brains actually work. Let's update our consciousness and be even more aware of how we can increase our performance, increase our productivity, and improve our delivery of value to markets through our businesses. And that's through the creativity of our brain. Let's look at the core functions of what a founder, a CEO of a startup that's innovating something new in the world needs to have. Strategic thinking. That means you need to be clear on what's going on and make good decisions. Clarity. You need to be really good at managing people, which includes emotional intelligence, being able to see what's going on with your team, what's going on with your colleagues, your leadership team. Are there tensions there that need to be addressed? These are really important skills. One of the number one skills for leading a company, if not the number one skill for leading a company, is being able to manage people. And people are full of emotions and their own experiences and the differences that come within those experiences. Another important skill that you need to lead a company successfully is communication, clear communication. What is your intention? What are your expectations? What are you asking for? Are you communicating? Are you asking for something in return? Clarity of thought and communicating that to others. 4, in your communication, are you sharing a vision that gets people excited, that people want to join you behind? Like, yeah, we want to do that. We want to help solve the aging crisis so that the elderly can age with dignity. Or do you want to solve climate change? People want to feel fulfilled. They want to feel inspired by the work that they're doing. And I could continue to list out some of the key skills that any leader, whether you're in corporate or in tech and startup life, need in order to be successful in achieving your goal. But I want to focus on these core skills, and let's recognize, what do they all need? They need clarity of thought. You need creativity. You need safety. Have you been in a conversation when someone says something to you that just ticks you off? Maybe they're going for it. They're directly insulting you or directly being disrespectful, and you have nothing to say in the moment. You breathe. And then later you're at home brushing your teeth and man, I thought of the best retort to that. No, I'm going to save it in my pocket for next time. You know what happens there? It's because in the moment, when you were confronted with the conflict, your brain turned into fight, flight, or freeze. This is the survival brain. And why are you able to then, when you're brushing your teeth at home, able to come up with a creative response? Is because you're no longer in that stress. You are now creative, you're expansive. So this is what our ability to be impactful, successful leaders in our businesses, in our organizations, and in our lives all rely on our nervous system and where we're allowing our brain to function. Is it in the highly creative space, the prefrontal cortex, or is it in that survival mode? Let's talk a little bit about what the anatomy of the brain looks like. This is going to get a little bit nerdy, a little bit scientific, but I know my audience, you guys are fully capable of understanding this, if not already experts. So there's a triune brain theory that discusses how our brains developed over time. First, the first phase was the reptilian brain. This is where the brainstem is and the cerebellum. It's responsible for all our main functions like breathing, eating, sleeping, and responding to stress, responding to any dangers. Fight, flight, freeze, maybe fun. And the reason why we call it the reptilian brain is because it's pretty unsophisticated. It just reacts to environments. It keeps the body moving. It's like a crocodile, the croc brain. So we primarily developed the reptilian brain to respond to our environment. Then as we evolved and our ancestors evolved before Homo sapiens came about, then there's the next development was the limbic system of the brain. This is the more emotional part of the brain. This is where the amygdala relies, where it's reacting to emotional stresses. The limbic brain is where our memory lies, our social bonding, our ability to connect with other people. It's responsible for all of our emotional reactivity, all of our attachments, and our needing of approval, of a sense of belonging, that we belong to a greater community because it helps us to feel safe. What happens when we operate from the limbic system, purely from this emotional space, is a lot of our decision making is driven by fear. It's reactivity. It's not proactive. It's not creative. And these first two spaces is where our functions lie when we're stressed and burnt out. Because what happens when you're stressed and burnt out? You have no energy to give. You feel a lack of inspiration. When someone says the slightest thing that has literally nothing to do with you, completely innocuous comment can throw you off and set you off and be like frustrated and irritable. I talk to founders every single day. This is a very common thing. When they're stressed and burnt out, they get irritated. And then they're not able to show up in their full selves. They're just reacting. You're also not able to make clear decisions and see any creative strategic path forward, because the third part of the brain that developed was our prefrontal cortex, the front part of our brain that allows us to think very creatively. It allows us to have complex thought. It is the reason why I'm able to record this video on an iPhone and then post it to an internet and for people to see all around the world. Our prefrontal cortex is responsible for all of our planning ability, our strategic thinking, our empathy, understanding where someone else is coming from, not just from our own perspective, but being able to hypothesize what might that person be feeling in their own experience and brain. It's also where we have moral reasoning come from, in the prefrontal cortex, in the front part of our brain. So if we go back to those four skills, those four core skills that I mentioned about what a true leader needs in order to be successful, whether you're in corporate or in startup life, you need to be able to think clearly, communicate, manage people, have emotional intelligence, etc. All of that happens in the prefrontal cortex. But when you're stressed and you're burnt out, you're not able to access that beautiful treasure trove of creativity, of strategic thinking, of rational thought, of emotional regulation, of empathy. Keystone skills for you as a leader. I'm kind of baffled. Like, how are we still operating from such a low level of conscious or low understanding of how our brains work? This is like, there are so many podcasts out there. There's so much understanding and awareness and heightened awareness around what happens in our brains, our nervous system, and how that affects how we show up in the world. And if you're still thinking that you can lead through stress and burnout, that is the gold medal you get to wear because you're going to be working so many hours and then you'll be successful, just watch this video again and remind yourself that's actually not true. Working a lot of hours doesn't mean you have to be working stressed out and burnt out a lot of hours. And then, even if you weren't working a lot of hours, being stressed and burnt out isn't going to help you because it's stopping you at your lowest, at that core, the cerebellum, that reptilian brain. It's stopping your thought there. Maybe you get to the limbic system where you have emotional reaction. That's the level of thought that you get when you're stressed and burned out. But you really need to be able to tap into that prefrontal cortex, because that is where the magic lies. And you're going to be able to notice the tension in the boardroom, or just in your leadership team meetings or your product design meetings where two people are disagreeing and they're talking past each other, or you're doing that with someone else. You'll be able to emotionally regulate and say, actually, let me get curious. Let me get above the line here. Let me think. I'm sensing some tension. And I'm not sure where that's coming from. Do you mind sharing with me what's going on for you, like what you're experiencing? That kind of openness and groundedness will help to clarify what's going on, create a connection between the colleagues, and then allow for a productive discussion, not a destructive discussion. When it comes to startups and founders, especially co-founders, founder tension and miscommunication is make or break you. It will break you as a person, as a leader, and as a business. So are you spending your time wisely? Are you operating as a leader through your prefrontal cortex, where you're able to be empathetic, be creative, see clearly, make the strategic decisions with forethought and understanding? Or are you operating purely from survival, reacting to what people say, to deadlines, not communicating boundaries, getting upset when people cross boundaries that you never even started? These are all common behaviors of what happens when we're stressed and we're burnt out. So my hope is that through this video, you understand how the brain works and finally get it in your head to dispel the belief that stress and burnout is the price that you pay in order to be successful. Because I promise you, it's the thing that's stopping you from getting where you need to go. That's it for this video. Thank you so much for listening. I look forward to having you join me again next time. If you like this content, please like the video and subscribe to the content if you want to see more content like this. If there's something you want to talk about or hear about, please comment on the video. Would love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you're an entrepreneur dealing with stress and burnout and wanting to move to a more empowered place where you're able to think creatively and tap into those skills that I mentioned earlier in this video, there's a link in the description below. Click on it. It's something crazy, just some information about what I do and how I help founders like you to really get to your goals, be creative, and have incredible impact in this world. I love to support my founders. I love to support my clients. I love working with me. I would love to chat with you as well. That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Have a lovely day.